Hi, and welcome to the Media Bubble Podcast, the podcast that talks about movies, anime, comics, video games, and whatever we feel like. I'm your host, Karol, and with me as always is my co-host, Fredrik.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo, yabba-dabba-doo.
Yabba-dabba-doo. Today we're
today
talking about the two live-action Scooby-Doo movies. We have heard that they have had their 20th anniversary, or no, the first one has had.
Exactly.
We're kind of doing it with the same with that, but let's be honest, we would have done a video about these two films in the future anyway.
I feel like they're classic enough and goofy enough that, yeah, as you said, they were inevitable. We would have made an episode on them like any day now.
Yeah, I feel like these two are the best live action films based on a cartoon, because usually they are bad. But I think the good thing with Scooby-Doo is that Scooby-Doo is so campy in a way that that it's kind of easy to take him into live action form. But let's be honest, it could have failed too, so...
No, I think we both know that any franchise and any idea can fail.
Yeah. When I said that, I just remember that theatrical released Scooby-Doo movie that came out from 2 years ago, and I realized that, they can make Scooby-Doo bad.
Exactly.
Like Scooby-Doo is a weird franchise in a way, because I feel like it's a franchise that Warner Brothers can do whatever they want with. Do you want Scooby-Doo in VVE or Scooby-Doo Lego and puppets? They can do everything with this guy, and he still makes money.
I feel like, for starters, this franchise had a very long history. Hence, they had to innovate with lots of fresh ideas, which opened the door to let's just put Scooby-Doo in everything.
And that's kind of what I mean. They can. He's a franchise that you can do everything with, and he still works for some reason.
But going back to the 2000 Scooby-Doo and the sequel to 2004 Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters
Unleashed.
Exactly.
So I guess we're going to start with the first live action film, and
that would be good, yes.
Yeah, let's take them in order.
Okay, so what is the premise? The premise is our Scooby-Doo gang
has broken up.
Has broken up.
Yeah, they have broken up. They've gone their separate way. They don't want to see each other anymore. Just like you and me 5 years ago.
Excuse me?
That isn't true.
I feel like I have some major memory lapse if that ever happens.
Don't you remember that time we split up, Karol, and then came back 2 years later on a mystical island?
Oh my god. If only. I have to give it to the movie. Spooky Island. The name? Love it. I would go to that place. If this was a real place, I would go there for a vacation.
You know, every roller coaster and thing like that, that's all CGI.
Really?
Yeah. That doesn't exist here.
Oh, god damn it. I knew they wouldn't actually create a functioning roller coaster for the movie, but I still felt like maybe they filmed in a resort on an island.
Well, the hotel and the haunted mansion, I think they are build sets. But all the roller coasters you see in the background, otherwise, I think they are added in.
But we're going off on a tangent about this wonderful place that I would like to visit.
I like going off a bit.
Then let's continue. So the whole place, just the vibe, immaculate. Punks, skaters, geeks, just this spooky skeleton voodoo. everything feels
teenage
just so...
teenage holiday vibe.
Exactly, and it all feels so campy, and it all feels like just like this touristy trap, which it is.
It
Which
also feels
even in the
very
movie is.
2002, I gotta say.
True. Yes.
From the music to the way they talk sometimes to Velma and Daphne's very
Period accurate outfits.
yeah, exactly.
Also, I mean, just the whole movie kind of screams the 2000s. For goodness sake, the first scene we see is the gang fighting a clad criminal in a Pamela Anderson doll factory.
Did you see this film as a kid?
I think I did, but I didn't remember a lot of details.
Yeah, because that was something I never got as a kid of who is this woman that comes in and is apparently a big deal. Pamela Anderson. I have no idea.
If you're a kid, you probably don't care for celebrities. And
but I had no idea who she even was.
But I mean, not only we had Pamela Anderson as the cameo, which usually happens in the normal Scooby Doo episodes, we also had Rowan Atkinson as one of the main bad guys.
Yeah.
Which is also surprised because I don't associate Atkinson with Scooby Doo.
You forgot that he was in this film.
Yes, before seeing it.
Maybe we can go actually a little bit about the premise now when I think about it. The first scene that you see is kind of the classic Scooby Doo formula where Fred and Velma has made a plan. The plan some way, or Daphne has gotten kidnapped. The plan in some way has gone screwed up, so Shaggy and Scooby has to run away and somehow catch the villains on their own, which they managed to do, and it's the old janitors who is behind the ghost.
Which is another trope in Scooby-Doo movies. It's usually like the janitor or like the oil baron, and they want to they have some schemes.
Or actually, I'm not exactly sure if he was the janitor, but I think he was something like that.
I think he actually was the janitor.
Oh.
Afterwards, the group splits, as you mentioned before, because Fred is an attention hog, and he doesn't want to share that this whole plan was his and Velma's idea. It was only his.
When you think about it, Fred is probably the character that has the most personal change from the cartoons, because Fred in the cartoons is so simple-minded.
He is a goofy himbo, but here he feels like he is self-centered, which is not a bad take, because this is not a one-for-one recreation of the series.
No. It has some changes.
Yeah, it gives it its own kind of flavor, I feel like. So the gang splits up.
Let's say they all have their personal problems. Daphne has she doesn't want to be the woman in distress or the girl in distress.
Exactly. And
Velma wants to get attention for her actually work in the team.
And Fred doesn't want... And Fred, what does he quit? Is it because oh, well, if you quit, then I quit too, I guess?
Well... I guess that because everyone else quit, so I guess he also quit in that case.
And afterwards, 2 years pass, and we see Shaggy and Scooby-Doo in a smoking in a van, which is a pot joke, and they are invited to the spooky island, which I like that they actually pointed out hey, yeah, it has spooky in the name. What is the reason for them to even come to the dang place?
Yeah, You know, you're a teenager, you doing some wild shit, Carol?
No, I actually never did. I was when I
No,
was
I
a kid.
don't
I
mean
was very
us, but I
vanilla.
mean the thinking of it.
I mean, if we're talking about being a teenager, as I said, it's hard to me for it to imagine to do wild shit. I wish I could do, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
couldn't really do either. The fact that that I don't really like roller coasters doesn't really help.
So if I invited you to the spooky island, you wouldn't ride the skeleton coaster with me.
No, I would probably just sit at the bar.
No, the dead man's top, or what was it called?
Well, anyway, they arrive at this spooky island after Scooby Doo is dressed like a grandma, and
Yeah.
Shaggy meets a girl on the plane who is
Who likes to eat dog
another
food.
pot yoke with Mary Jane.
Yeah. So I felt like wow, this is the woman for you, Shaggy. She eats dog food just like you do. It must be. It was meant to be.
Yeah, that's something that happens in like the 2 first minutes that they met. She gets out the Scooby snacks and starts eating them.
So they arrive on the island and they meet the owner of the place, which name I just forgot. Nevertheless, he's played by Ron Atkinson, and he tells us.
Let's see, I can look up his name. Let's see. Emil Mondavarius.
So Emil introduces the problem to the people, to the mystery gang.
Yeah.
Namely, people who leave the island are weird. They're brainwashed. There's something wrong with them.
Yeah, they are.
And he needs the Scooby-Doo gang to figure out what the problem is.
Yeah. I remember when he explained it was like the teenagers that leave this place. They're normal. They act mature. What's the problem with that? They weren't that when they arrived.
I mean, yeah. The resolution is that they're being controlled by skinwalkers. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's still funny in the context.
And then I guess we go straight to the night where Daphne has found some clues about an old castle.
Yeah, I feel like so this is not a section where everybody splits. There is a bet on who's gonna solve the mystery first. This thread is dropped very quickly in about like 10 minutes, but nevertheless they all split and they look for information. As you said, Daphne finds the info, and then she drags Scooby and Shaggy along to the castle because before they went to the island, Shaggy proposed that they all made up, and Daphne wasn't against it. It was only if Velma and Fred would be along with the team, but that didn't happen, so that makes sense why she brought them along.
Yeah.
And then just
Actually,
Velma...
one thing that I thought about when watching this film, there's a lot of times where Scooby, Shaggy, and Daphne get separated from Fred and Velma.
I feel like I want to actually bring it up because I don't feel like Velma or Fred do like have any like Fred or anything going on in the movie.
Yeah, Fred especially. Velma I feel has something going on. She is the one that actually solves the way of the clue how that works. But Fred on the other hand, he's I guess he is like the cartoon when I think about it. He does nothing.
Exactly, and like because Scooby and Shaggy, they kind of wanted to bring the team back together. Daphne has this whole thing about being damsel in distress. That's why she took like karate classes and
Yeah,
wanted to show that
which was a deleted scene.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they had 3 deleted scenes when they all were at the airport, what they have been doing in the 2 years. And Fred had this scene of him being at a convention promoting his book, but no one cared. Velma was at like a group therapy
Theater.
class, and
Oh,
Daphne
God.
had like karate lessons.
I mean, I feel like if they showed that nobody cared about Fred, like leaving Mystery Inc., that'll make me more sympathetic towards Fred. But here he's just a jerk. Like, oh, I'm here signing my book. Like, whatever, dude.
Fred on Fred.
Yeah, and
Who is the
I wanted to
bigger
mention,
jerk?
because you said that Velma, she solved the mystery, but even that took like one scene. She sat at the bar and she figured it out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like even anything like dramatic reveal. It was just, well, she just sat down and read the thing.
Actually, when I rewatched this film, something that I discovered was this film to me is very fast paced. Like things move kind of quickly from scene to scene, which was a different kind of thing when I was a kid and watched this. I guess I felt like things moved pretty quickly from scene to scene, and I guess that's because you gotta kind of be in a 1 hour and 20 minutes time frame, which I guess was the standard for films that are kind of made more for children at the time.
I mean, you have to keep in mind that if you're making a movie about like kids are gonna watch it, even though this movie was incredibly horny, and at times I was really appalled about what was happening.
Actually, did you know that James Gunn, the writer of this film, came out a couple of years later and said, "Yeah, we were kind of making that an R-rated film."
Yeah, and it definitely has those vibes.
Yeah, you can see the R-ratedness in this, and the thing is, I'm surprised that Warner Brothers allowed them to make an R-rated Scooby Doo film of everything, and then later on in the process they're like, "Oh, we have gotten our minds back. We can't make this an R-rated film because it's a it's a characters for children."
Yeah, like I wouldn't care. I would still see the movie because, like, even now that you told me, like, even the setup works. It's a spooky island where everybody parties and gets drunk. Like, characters almost died a few times in the spooky castle scene. There's a lot of like weird comments, like, oh, like what? No, Velma, I'm a man of taste. I also dig the nerdy chicks like you. They also turn me on. And I was just like, it's funny. But what are you saying? That's not how real people talk.
One thing that I always have been a little bit on the fence about is I feel like parents are always overreacting when it comes to sex jokes in kids' film, because the kids for the first wouldn't understand them, and the second thing, what does it matter if they understand or not? Like, I feel like kids know about that women and men are like attracted to each other.
I feel like you should. I mean, parents should. But now we are reopening a different kind of worms, because I feel like I agree with you, because yes, like kids are probably wondering about the birds and the bees. I don't think it's okay if you show them like explicit, overly like sex scenes.
No, I don't. I'm not meaning show them. Actually, I watched that as a kid when I think about it.
I did as well. And I mean, whenever you're gonna like it or not, like unless you keep like a microscopic like attention to your child, you're not gonna be able to please everything they see, especially in today's age.
But I just mean that I don't. It's not like it's going to change the kid. Like, oh, I watched this sex scene. Now my childhood is ruined. Well, anyway, let's get back to the plot.
You don't want to know what kind of books I read when I was a kid.
You can explain it, Carol.
Oh, okay. No. So, after they all meet up at the castle, they figure out there's a studio hiding in the castle.
Yeah,
And
they
there's
split
like a,
up also.
yeah. So there's like a chase scene. Daphne almost dies, and she says, "No, I'm not a damsel in distress. I'm not a damsel in distress. She's a damsel in distress." Like, I hate how this movie just undermines Daphne so much. Because
In the original cartoon, I don't even think that she got kidnapped that often. Like, if I remember, I think there was some YouTuber that pointed out that I think Velma got kidnapped more than Daphne in the original cartoon.
But even, I mean, but even then, like, this could be like a legitimate fear for her, and I like that. Like, oh, she's struggling with the status of this damsel, but then the movie just hammers on that point until her final fight with the wrestler.
Let's see, Shaggy and Scooby also separate, and Velma and Fred is one group. Shaggy and Scooby, they don't really get a lot to do. Okay, they get some jokes to do, but they don't really find any clues. Fred and Velma, on the other hand, finds a kind of film studio.
Exactly, and they suspect that people who leave the island are being brainwashed into being proper citizens. So they then go to the owner, to Emil, and explain the situation.
Let's just... Daphne also finds a kind of triangle clue, which is going to be an important thing for the case later on.
It's the MacGuffin, basically.
Yeah.
I like the scene a lot in a way that, sure, they were all split up, but it didn't feel like, I mean, everybody did something. It didn't feel like Fred just found the goddamn castle and then he's just here. No, like, everyone actually was doing stuff. Nevertheless, they go to Emil, they explain the situation, and then they continue the investigation. And then, I don't think if I remember this correctly. Then they.
This is where the flashback scene happens.
Which flashback scene? What?
This is where Velma kind of has a flashback of the good old times, and the gang has so much fun together in this car, and then Scrappy-Doo shows up for some reason.
Oh yeah, okay, now I remember.
And Scrappy-Doo is apparently a horrible character, and they throw him off the van. I mean, and while seeing it, you're kind of wondering, well, that was random.
I mean, well, I guess at this point, like, everybody was wondering, where's Scrappy-Doo? Like, he.
No one was was wondering that. There was a lot of TV shows where Scrappy wasn't a part of the gang.
But nevertheless, like, I feel like, I mean, was only the way for him to establish, like, to foreshadow the main bad guy.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit later on that when we come to that plot point.
So we have a flashback, and then we go to the night.
Do you want to know that there was also a deleted scene here where Velma gets on the piano and starts singing "I Want You Baby" while pointing at the Daphne.
Holy shit, like, this would have been so much better.
I told you that it was once upon a time R-rated. And even if it's not R-rated, the stuff that is in here is... yeah.
Nevertheless, we are at the party and the monsters are breaking in. Everybody's running around.
We might explain that the main gimmick with this film when it came out was that it was going to have real monsters, real alien kind of monsters thing.
I mean, did you? I mean, there were body snatchers, sure.
Well, what did they even look like? Some kind of weird purple rabbit.
They were gremlins. They were just big gremlins.
Well, the monsters comes in and attack, and they manage to get Fred and Velma.
Exactly. They sleep two of the main characters.
Which is kind of what I meant with that Fred and Velma get separated from Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby a lot, because they are the three remaining members of the team that actually escapes.
Which is funny because we didn't really need Velma and Fred. They didn't do much in the movie anyway. So we just focus on Daphne and Scooby instead.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are being yoinked, and now they're running around, screaming. There's like windows breaking, chaos ensuing, people being raptured by the gremlins, and Mary Jane calls up the Coast Guard. Exactly, so they can get help.
Which gives one of the most creepiest smiles you will ever see.
I mean, you get that they are also being warned. They're also been transmogrified. And then they sleep on the beach, which I don't understand.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing. It's just cuts to them sleeping on the beach.
Yeah, there's like a lot of weird unexplained stuff. Like, if there's monster roaming around, like, oh, meet us at the pier. Fine. But if there's monsters around, you can't just like sleep on the beach and expect to be safe.
Yeah. And then everyone is kind of acting normal and partying around the town. So it's kind of normal again, which is weird for Shaggy, Daphne, and Scooby, and Mary Jane.
But even that scene doesn't last long. It's just like they walk up to Fred, and then they are being jumped by the punk rock 20,000s boy band.
There's another deleted scene here actually where Daphne finds Velma and she's dancing with just a bikini top, and she's kind of wondering what's going on.
They were really setting up Velma and Daphne together, huh?
Yes, James Gunn kind of said, I'm not sure about Daphne, but Velma and Daphne was going to be in a lesbian relationship.
I mean, it wouldn't probably be handled. It would if their R-rated version came through, I bet it would have been gross. Like it wouldn't be
but
like.
I kind of feel like he overdid some stuff, to be honest. It's like he's trying to make this cartoon for children a bit too much. Edgy. To be honest, it's kind of it almost like takes away from what Scooby Doo is.
I mean, it's we're coming back to the topic of 2000s because it's like this gross weird out humor. I mean, for goodness sake, we had like fart jokes and the burp jokes.
Yeah, if we're being honest, I feel like sex jokes in kids movies were kind of normal in 2000s, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you even dare to make some jokes like that, I don't like. Their parents are way more on the lookout for that. It feels like.
Yeah, and look at us, Karol. We turned out all right.
I mean, did we?
Of course we did.
I mean, going back to the topic of sexy stuff in media and not for kids. When I was a kid, this is a little bit of a like a confession. Do you know of the series Egyptian Sinué?
No.
So basically, it's like an Egyptian set fiction where there's a eunuch and he's in love with a princess, but he's also like on political drama / very gross, not gross, but yeah, there's assault and graphic sex, and I read that when I was 10.
Can I just explain that? Well, if I'm going to be honest here, Daphne Sarah Michelle Gellar might have been one of my earliest crushes, to be honest.
Wait, the actor who played Daphne?
Yeah, the especially the way she looks in this film. Might have been the one of my earliest awakenings, if you can call it that.
So that's your type, huh?
Well,
Women in
anyway, let's
purple.
move on. Let's see. Shaggy and Scooby runs away from Fred, which Fred is kind of partying. Wait, wasn't that supposed to be the opposite? The monsters that left the islands were like strict, while now they're...
Exactly. That's the weird part. But I mean, in universe, if we wanted to explain that, we could argue that the monsters having now this freedom to being in the material world, they party it out, and before they leave, they turn into like these normal citizens.
Yeah, why am I trying to make sense in a Scooby Doo movie?
This movie doesn't deserve that. Don't overthink stuff.
So Shaggy and Scooby runs away. Daphne gets kidnapped, and
she's not a damsel in distress.
and they get their souls taken from their bodies, and while their souls are gone, monsters use or gets into their bodies and use them as a kind of sun protector's skin.
It's like a sunsuit. They're like gargoyles, but they can jump into your body to not be burned.
They're like vampires in some ways. They can't take sun.
And then we have a scene with Shaggy and Mary Jane, because Scooby-Doo sees that Mary Jane is in fact one of the bad guys. And Shaggy, being so enamored with this girl, he forgets about his goddamn best friend in the entire world and says like, no, this is... I don't have the word for word. It's like, dude, this is your talking dog, your best friend for life. Why don't you trust him about this girl? Like, why did...
Yeah, you gotta trust a talking dog.
Like, bros before hoes, come on.
Yeah, especially when he has been your friend for like 15 years, and you have known this girl for like 2 days.
Exactly. Like, what the hell, Shaggy? That's so uncool. But then they jump into the cavern and find the soul collector, the soul cistern, where everybody's
we might
souls inside.
as well say that Shaggy and Scooby also get separated.
Not for long.
So
Wait, for long?
So Shaggy frees the souls of his friends, and Fred and Daphne gets into the wrong bodies, you can say.
And here we go with the more gross joke. Like, ooh, I have boobs. Oh, I can look myself down.
Oh,
here.
I
Like,
can
come
look
on.
at myself naked. Yeah, and Velma is also dressed kind of sexy now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, after she was turned into one of those bad guys, like her haircut changed and her outfits changed.
Yeah, and so one of the funniest scenes for me in this film comes up where Shaggy finds the 3 of them, and they constantly are switching bodies, and we get a line from when Shaggy is in Daphne's body like, "Oh, don't you ever eat?" Which I heard is kind of a thing of explaining that Daphne has has an eating disorder.
I mean, she could also be on a diet.
Yeah, it can, and also Shaggy eats probably a lot too.
Yeah, so for Shaggy, him being like it's I mean, now that you point it out, it's a little bit clever because like he eats a lot, so of course in Daphne's body he would be really hungry.
And Velma is in Fred's body at one point, and I guess this is kind of a reminder how the different characters kind of act in some way, because Fred is suddenly much more active with his hand.
I thought that that the joke dragged for way too long.
Yeah, I kind of liked it. Well, anyway, the 4 of them team up again, and now we're going to be like the Mystery Inc. gang is back and we're going to save Scooby Doo. So they make this plan in a cave of them separating the monsters from the bodies and having a disco ball come in and reflecting sunlight on them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We forgot to mention the whole big evil plan, what it's about. So, basically, the main bad guy, the Emile, who it turns out to be, he persuaded Scooby-Doo to be a sacrifice so that he can charge up with the power of the gathered souls and begin the Darkopolis to destroy all of humanity for 10,000 years.
This was a really weird plot, even for Scooby-Doo, when I think about it.
Yeah, it was. It is. It feels a little bit more grandiose than some of the other adventures they get into.
Like, these creatures are supposed to be kind of like some alien monsters kind of thing that are angry that they're building a roller coaster theme park on their island.
Yeah, that was also dropped like that. Oh, that these people destroy this island to build a theme park. That was like a sentence, and then it didn't go anywhere. Also, can I also complain? The voodoo guy that pointed to Daphne to the castle. Like, he was just there for exposition.
He's the only character that actually didn't really do a lot. He wasn't a bad guy in the movie, and he was kind of just there.
He was just there. He told like, oh yeah, you should go to the spooky castle because it's spooky.
Well, then, I guess you gotta have some people that are that you suspect but actually aren't the villains.
But did you suspect the voodoo guy? Who did you suspect? I mean, even then, everyone that they rambled up, there was no mystery because it's like...
Carol, I saw this film for the first time when I was like 5 years old. I don't remember who I suspected.
I didn't suspect anyone, honestly.
I kind of just enjoyed the ride.
Yeah, like, I didn't feel like it had enough clues for you to try to piece out because, as you said, the action was so fast that you just...
Well, if you're going to be quite honest, the bad guy that they went with, I kind of felt was so random.
I think it was more for a joke.
Okay, well, I guess we can get into that now, because in the plot at this point, Scooby is supposed to be sacrificed for, let's see, to get his soul, so because he has a pure soul, apparently, and Mondavarius is revealed to be a robot, and the robot, the one that is controlling the robot is Scrappy-Doo, which is a decision that I have always hated, that they made him the main villain of this movie. Let's see, at the same time, Daphne is fighting the luchador on the top of the building, because she is kind of trying to get the disco... No, and...
Yes,
yeah,
she's trying to get lights into the cavern.
But anyway, Scrappy gets all these souls into his body, so he's kind of transformed into a big demon dog, I guess.
Yeah, so he's transformed into one of those gargoyles mixed with him. At the same time, as you said, Daphne is trying to shine the light on the big disco skull so that everyone, as the souls jump into their bodies, the demon will be expelled and they will all burn. And even then, it's like reminded, oh, what now? Feels like you're the damsel in distress. Just like...
Yeah, but in some way, her story arc actually comes to an end. Fred and Velma's story arc, when does that ever get pointed out again?
When does that even start? What arc did Fred have? Like, he's an asshole that broke up the group?
Yeah.
Like he just, oh, you know what? Velma, you can take the stage. But they never talked about it in the movie.
Let's see.
Velma had like this boy toy hanging around on the island, but even then they shared maybe one scene.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I like of all the characters in this movie, he was like the one that was the least memorable. I mean, even Melvin Dew was more memorable, and he came up in 2 scenes.
And I think like that boy toy was the blueprint for the love interest, which they did again in the sequel. But I feel like they wanted to flesh it out a little bit more, at least.
Well, they managed to save the day, I guess. Daphne beats the luchador, and Shaggy managed to drag the souls out of Scrappy's body, and the day is saved, I guess. And
yeah. And Scrappy gets arrested on a helicopter, and he gets put into jail. We feel like. So
yeah, and then the gang is back together. Everything gets solved. Shaggy gets a girlfriend, and they end the movie with a scene where Shaggy and Scooby is eating hot chili peppers together.
Can I just say, before we go to the sequel, I have some points. I mean,
yeah, I also have some points that I want to talk about before.
Because we're on 30 minutes and we have the second movie too to go through.
Yeah, but I don't care. I still want to talk about this one.
All right then. Then take the lead.
Let's see. Some things that I like about this film. I like the look of the film. I feel like all the actors play a good role and look the parts, except for maybe Freddie Prinze Jr. He looks a little bit out of place, but Matthew Lillard as Shaggy is like the perfect casting.
I think everyone associates him with Shaggy.
Yeah, he became the voice Shaggy. Of Shaggy in the cartoons later on.
Yeah, he is Shaggy. He is the Shagmaster.
Yeah, he's like everything Shaggy. Also about the more adult jokes about this film. It's kind of fun to look back on in some way, because you kind of notice stuff that you didn't really notice as a kid. Like the film starts kind of with the line where Daphne is getting kidnapped by this ghost of help, Fred, he's touching my so the film is kind of full with jokes like that, which, to be honest, I felt was quite fun in some way. But if there are jokes like that, I still feel like I watched this as a kid. I enjoyed it a lot, and I feel like this really is fun for kids. Like, I had a great time. But the one thing that I absolutely does not like about this film is Scrappy-Doo as the villain of the film. Like his character in the cartoons, he's nothing like like that in this film. Like, I know that he was like a lot of adults hated him, like he was a hated character on the cartoons, but that doesn't mean, because I liked him in the cartoons, and I feel like there are people that exist that actually like Scrappy-Doo, and to just make him suddenly go completely out of character, and now I'm going to be the villain of this movie, and you're going to hate me, and I'm going to be absolutely nothing like I was in the cartoon. Like, I hate Scrappy-Doo as the villain of this film, and apparently they made a preview about, because they weren't sure who the villain of this film was going to be, and apparently they discovered that people didn't really understand why Scrappy was the villain of the film, even if he was a hated character. But I guess they still made him to the bad guy for some reason.
I mean, as we have explained as we have talked about in the beginning, this isn't like a faithful adaptation, because it was never meant to be. It was supposed to be an R-rated comedy with Scooby Doo.
Yeah, I know,
So
but I still hate
they
the
friendrized
decision.
him.
Like that's the only part I don't like about this film. So
Alrighty
what did
then.
you want to point out, Carol?
I just wanted to ask you. You said it's okay. I mean, it is a. There's only so much you can get angry at, like because it's 2000s.
Yeah, I still
So
really like the film.
what I wanted to point out is that I like the setting. I like the hotel. I like the island. I like the caves. I liked every single place that they showed because this is somewhere I would really love to go and see.
Mm.
Just just this old thirsty trap, weird voodoo skeleton place. I love it.
Mm.
Um, I some of the jokes landed. It was great, and I laughed.
Mm. Do
Um,
you want to know a weird thing about my family? Is that there's one line which they always remember from this film and kind of brings up from time to time, and that is when Scooby is supposed to find a hamburger, and and instead of saying hamburger, he says ramburger or something like that.
Ramburger.
That's kind of always a line that has stuck with my family for some reason.
I didn't know you were such a Scooby stan.
Oh, you know how much of a fan I am of Scooby Doo. I had it in my top 10 franchises, if you remember that, Carol.
Oh, you were. Sorry.
I first saw this film in like 2003 or something like that. This film is really old for me, I guess you can say.
Okay, so if I can, I'd like to go to the bad.
Okay,
And
go to the bad, Carol.
I dislike that Fred didn't have any arc.
Yeah.
He was there. What was his story? Nobody knows. He just enjoyed a summer vacation.
Mm.
How Daphne was always undermined again and again, that she was a damsel in distress, or she was touched, or people like commented that she didn't eat, or like it's so. Because I really like Daphne.
Mm.
And the ending, it had no build up. Like, as you said, the villain, whoopsie-doo, it was Scrappy-Doo. Everyone was the villain.
Yeah.
But then it was only him the villain, and it's like, we had no build up, no clues. We had a flashback scene with Scrappy-Doo. That's it.
Mm.
But, yeah. What was the point? What was the point? What was the story about? It was the story about the mystery gang going back together, but in that case they didn't really fix anything that made them break up in the first place.
No, in some ways, well, Fred kind of gives Velma the credit, I guess, in the end scene, but there was no really build up to that, I guess. Well, if we're going to move on maybe to the sequel at some point, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, which, if I'm being honest, when I was a kid, this was the movie that I liked more of the two of them. Like I said, Scrappy-Doo as the villain had a bad taste for me even as a kid, so usually I told myself that I liked this one more.
I agree, because I feel like it wasn't as explicit that this would have been an R-rated movie. They just focused more actually like on the jokes, and there was a little bit of mystery to the mystery. Like it kept me guessing a little bit.
Yeah, this feels more like a traditional mystery, to be honest. Like the first one was a kind of a breakup and getting together movie. This one kind of has more of the mystery itself. I guess.
Because the mystery is who stole, like the mystery gang has solved so many crimes that they accumulated all the costumes and made a exhibit in a museum. These costumes are stolen and being reanimated as true real monsters. And also the mystery gang is also being slandered on live news. What the hell is happening? So that's kind of the premise of it.
They're in this town called Coolsville, which I guess is the town where they grew up and solved all these cases in the cartoon. I guess that's kind of what they are trying to make of it.
Would you believe that Fred really said that Coolsville sucks? How could he?
Yeah. Of course I can believe it. I saw it on the news, Carol.
Exactly, like that.
The guy that has seemed seemed so nice in all these years suddenly says something bad. Of course I believe it.
But I feel like this movie, like as you said, the first one was like a breakup movie. This was like solve a mystery, but it also kind of had the vibes of them being so big that they forgot their roots.
It's also kind of a nostalgic movies before I guess nostalgic movies was a thing, because a lot of the old monsters that they was in like some of their older cartoon shows up. Like the first one that we see is the Aerodactyl ghost, which is looking really terrifying because he's like a real life dinosaur.
But can we appreciate that they actually because this could just be an exposition dump, but they actually like make the suit and film the scene where the pterodactyl is robbing the bank. It was so cool.
It
like,
was.
Daphne could...
We also get introduced to this new villain. What the heck was he even called?
I don't think I even wrote his name.
Yeah, to be honest, he wasn't really that memorable. Like I feel like the more fun stuff was seeing the old villains from the cartoons. He was kind of just there as a main bad guy, I guess you can say. Let's see. I can't find his name actually.
But Mr. Clad in Black, we can call him that for now.
Okay.
There is a gala opening the new museum with all the suits on display, and he breaks in with a pterodactyl suit. No, pterodactyl suit is already exchanged at the museum. It breaks out, causes havoc, and everything is filmed by the news lady. And he says like, I'm gonna unmask you for who you really are, the Scooby Gang. Mark my words, har.
He seems to really have something against the Scooby Gang for some reason.
Yeah, and we don't know why. So after all is done, the mystery gang is bombarded with questions like, what the hell happened? Why aren't what's your clues?
Yeah, why didn't you solve the case? Like, if I'm being honest, that's kind of a weird thing.
It is.
Because in the original cartoons, usually they don't solve the case the first time they meet the ghosts. So it's kind of weird that they are getting suddenly criticized because, you didn't solve the case at the first moment you saw the bad guy.
I feel like maybe in this universe, because I don't think... maybe in this time in the movie, people are just so expectant of them, like they will solve any crime right now. That's why they're asking these questions. They had
in the beginning scene where they gets out of this limousine kind of car. It's a scene that they have a lot of different fans. Like,
yeah, everyone has fans.
Shaggy, he has his stoner people. Scooby has a lot of different dogs. Velma has lookalikes for some reason, and Daphne has...
And Daphne has creepy fans, as always.
That tattoos her picture on their body. Well, anyway... if we said that Shaggy and Scooby didn't really have an arc in the first film, this film is kind of trying to give them an arc, because they are kind of trying to discover... their place on this team and trying to be real detectives, I guess.
Yeah, they want to help as much as the other team members, and I like that. Like, they promise to themselves that we are gonna change ourselves and we're gonna try to be more brave, and it kind of actually propels the story forward. Because of their contributions, As we know, as they begin searching for clues, they go to this old mansion that is tied to one of the people that have been tied to the suits that have been stolen from the museum.
Yeah, the first case they ever did, the Black Knight ghost.
Exactly, and he has all this memorabilia. So, because of Shaggy and Scooby, they find the address to this local bar where the owner frequents.
Yeah,
So,
can we just also mention that while they're in this house, they also meet the Black Knight ghost. Because he has turned the suit into a real monster, and I kind of like the for 2004. I really liked the design of the Black Knight ghost. He felt like
he felt delightfully goofy,
and he had some green ooze coming out of him, and I don't know, he felt like a knight, but still scary in some way. No, not that you will get scared of him, but yeah.
But you say this thing about night. I say the same thing about the whole mansion. Like it was just delightfully creepy green, very light, like purple carpets.
It really felt
walls.
like Scooby Doo.
Yeah, it really felt like it. And again, this feels like a place I'd really want to visit.
So Scooby Doo also finds some clues, and something that I went over my head as a kid because it took a while for me to learn English, is that when apparently Scooby is finding useless clues, he stumbles upon different things like secret documents here or something like that all the time.
Yeah, secret diary.
But I guess Scooby is kind of like me. It got over his head too.
Can we also mention Daphne's badass moments? Like they finally let the actor do some freaking stunts.
Yeah, she is like she is like Buffy the Vampire. So why wouldn't you want to make her do some stuff?
Yeah, like you literally got the actress who played Buffy the Vampire. She's used to stunts and to fights, so I'm really glad they actually let her have a weapon and have a bout with the knight.
Actually, do you know that the actor that plays Fred and the actor that plays Daphne are married in real life?
Yes, I know. But did you know? I don't think if you played. Did you play Dragon Age Inquisition?
No.
But for our listeners, so Fred also voices one of the main love interests in Dragon Age Inquisition. He voices the Iron Bull, which is like this hunky mountain of a man, which I just find so fun.
Actually, one thing that I want to ask you about, because we are kind of getting into seeing a lot of different of the monsters. As a kid, did you recognize a lot of them? Because for me it was like the Aerodactyl ghost and the 10,000 lightning ghost, or what he is called in English.
I think when I was a kid I recognized the 10,000 volt ghosts.
Yeah, the 10,000 volt ghost for me too.
But and others... Oh, wait. I recognize also the mariner, the diving suit.
Did you? I didn't do that because that was an episode that didn't really air. Like one thing that I discovered in the future was that the Scooby Doo show here in Sweden, they left off some episode of season 3, and there actually was some of the monster that was in this film that was in those episodes. So yeah,
I think Scooby-Doo is probably bigger in Sweden than it is in Poland, but it's still strong everywhere, I feel like. As we mentioned before, it's a big brand and you can do a lot of stuff with it, so a lot of people had exposure to it. But we are at the creepy mansion looking for clues, and we just had a fight with the Black Knight.
Yeah, I guess we can move on to the next thing now.
Yeah. So what happens after is Scooby Doo and Shaggy are going to the unmasked ghost. No, the masked ghost, and Daphne,
Which is kind of a club for villains.
Just, I mean, on that note, like, how many people had they put in jail so that they had to make a whole club for villains that they demasked?
Well, if we're going through all the different cartoon incarnations from all of the years as crime solving, then yeah, it probably has to be a lot in that case.
I mean, yeah, actually, like, now that I think about it, they had enough costumes to make a museum exhibit, so. Kind of true.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Shaggy and Scooby gets clubbing, and for some reason, people doesn't see through Scooby's disguise. Kind of that cartoon logic there, I guess.
Oh, they do a dance number.
Yeah. And it's only when Scooby loses his hair.
His perfect disguise as a dog.
It's only then that people discover him. But I guess Shaggy and Scooby later on follows the black ghost person. What was his name?
We are so bad with names.
Jeremy Wickles.
Yeah, that feels correct. I believe you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Karol. Well, at
You
the
wouldn't
same
lie to
time,
me.
Velma is, I guess, trying to get some confidence to go on a date with Seth Green.
Yeah, so they're in their Scooby Pad, the Mystery Inc. headquarters. And can I say how this whole place looks so dang cool?
Yeah, you can say that, Karol.
Like, it's just so delightfully retro, futuristic. They have like a conversation pit in the middle of the room. Their kitchen is this like old 60s 70s vibe. I love it.
Yeah.
And they also Daphne helps out Velma, which I really enjoyed because they're like talking, like Daphne also supports her friend and puts her in like a skin like a leather bodysuit. And when Velma gets into the car, I almost forgot what kind of movie it was. like I remembered, oh, this is a sequel to the Spooky Island.
Yeah, you gotta remember, this is James Gunn.
Yeah. Still not as sexy as the first movie. Still kind of horny.
Yeah, like I gotta say that it has really turned down a lot for this film.
Can I also mention Daphne because she was walking around in this scene with a purple T-shirt with her own face and written Daphne on it.
Yeah, I remember that part too.
What a queen!
Yeah, so I guess Fred has nothing to do in this film either, so
Yeah,
I guess
like,
let's move on.
Like he only talks like oh my god, like he only talked with the reporter and he's like, oh, Coolsville doesn't sucks. You can always count on us. And that gets taken out of context. And that's all he does.
Yeah, he fights the Black Knight's ghost later on. But yeah, he doesn't really do a lot in this film either.
Yeah, like I've actually mentioned because he's like, oh, you want to talk about it? Comes later in the movie, but Fred says something like, Daphne asks him, you want to talk about it? And Fred's like, no, talking is for losers.
Yeah, men doesn't talk about their feelings.
Oh, god damn it. It's like
where did that even come from, to be honest?
Fred, please have an arc, have something, have a storyline.
Well, anyway, so Shaggy and Scooby gets into this old cave mine thing, and Fred, Velma, and Daphne later on follows them, but Shaggy and Scooby has their own kind of thing going, and they find some different drinking options that they, I guess, are trying and are transformed into different kind of creatures. Like Shaggy gets buff, and he also gets turned into a woman at one point.
Into a hot chick.
That's kind of like the James Gunn there again, to be honest. But Scooby gets transformed into some kind of weird octopus creature, I guess you can call it. And a Professor Scoob, I guess.
I wanted to ask a dumb question, but I don't know if I should stop myself.
Oh, I ask it, Caroline. I can cut it out if it isn't good.
From 0 to 10, Shaggy with boobs, smash or pass?
Pass. Like his face doesn't match the body.
I know. It's too sad that you don't appreciate your stoner girlfriend.
Well, anyway, Shaggy and Scooby is playing around a little bit, and by mistake they are creating 4 more monsters, which
which again, they move the plot along. Like it was kind of their mistake, which is fun. It like stuff doesn't happen around them; stuff happens because of them.
Well, if I can remember this game, it's the Minor 49er, the Tar Ghost, Captain Cutler's Ghost, and some zombie from their cartoon.
Yeah, that's like a really old one as well. What happens later? I don't actually remember.
Well, they are running away. They escape. Velma, Daphne, and Fred get chased by the 10,000 volt ghost, and while Shaggy and Scooby gets this scene where they're riding trash cans down a mountain where the skeleton ghosts are chasing them, and there's this really cool shot where Scooby when he's jumping off the mountain and you kind of see the moon in the background.
Yeah, I think I remember. And afterwards, because the big main guy starts terrorizing the town and he asks for the mystery ink, they go back to their own base, back to the roots.
Yeah, that was I felt like that should have been mentioned somewhere before in the film, that they had an old kind of camp, to be honest.
Yeah, it felt a little bit out of the blue, but it still set up a nice moment later on.
One thing that I found a bit funny was that Fred, Velma, and Daphne kind of has their scene inside the clubhouse, and Shaggy and Scooby are still outside, and they're kind of saying, "Oh, they have their musical pump-up moment in there, and we aren't a part of it."
Yeah, because it still emphasizes that they were feeling left out by their friends. But even then, they kind of still serve their purpose, like, because in a way, they're kind of the alarm system for the rest of the gang. Because they just have this incredible ability to get into trouble. They always find the ghosts.
Yeah. They always are able to solve the case, but for some reason this time it's a little bit harder for them.
Also, I think it was a nice scene because in a way or another we had a spotlight of almost all of the monsters. We had the pterodactyl in the beginning. We had the tar monster. We had the 10,000 kilowatt ghost. We had the skeletons, and now we have the mariner, the scuba guy coming out from the lake.
Captain Cutler's ghost, I think his name is. Which for some reason, for me as a kid, that was always kind of my favorite design of all the ghosts. Like, I don't know why, but that was the ghost design that I liked the best.
He just has a cool design. It's just a guy in a scuba suit with a harpoon gun. Like, what's there is not to like?
Also, in this scene, they have this flashback moment where they look at a picture of the younger days and, oh, look how fun we're having while throwing this frisbee.
But it's cute. it's nice. I mean, they kind of just picked up kids that looked a little bit like the characters, but it set up it's still maybe not the best way, but it sets out the parallel at the like last fight where they have to throw the MacGuffin, the disc, because
they didn't mean something bad with it, but yeah.
No, I never implied that it was bad. I just said, or that you said. I'm just saying like it's nice because they kind of go back to like from this moment. They're trying to not do it for fame, but do it for themselves, and they're reliving the first days of their mystery inking.
Yeah, Daphne has one of the lines, one line which I didn't really felt was such a big deal in the movie before, but she said something like, "Oh, that was the time where no one really had any expectations of us. We were just doing mysteries because we liked it." And that moment for me was kind of like, is that your story arcs in this film? You're feeling pressure from the fans? Because I didn't realize that before, to be honest.
That they were being pressured by the fans.
Apparently.
Yeah, I mean, this whole media angle with them being framed.
But I saw that they were being pressured, but I didn't feel like it was getting to their mind so much. Maybe Fred a little bit, but not Daphne.
No, it definitely didn't. I feel like they were still like there was never a breakup point like in the first movie where the gang had like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Like they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't have any spats between each other. They didn't need kind of this reminder to go back to the old ways because they were flourishing pretty much.
Oh, something that I completely forgot about was that Shaggy and Scooby stole this control panel from the evil lab, or the evil minor cave, I guess. So in this scene, the Velma and Fred and Daphne is kind of turning that around to it being the other way around, where the control panel will now destroy all the monsters, I guess.
Yeah, so they reversed the MacGuffin and they set out to go back and turn the thingamajig on.
Yeah.
And then we have a gauntlet of monsters.
And then every monsters in the movie that we have seen previously gets their movement, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even Fred does something.
He fights the Black Knight ghost.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty kick-ass moment. Like, he gets a bike that is already keys in it, and he gets stabbed with a pole but survives it, and...
Daphne is fighting the 10,000 volt ghost, which I kind of felt like was a kind of... Why aren't you running... Why are you trying to fight him? You can't defeat electricity. Like, he's probably the worst ghost of them all.
She kicked the electric monster and then flew like 20 feet away.
And
like,
then
what did you think was gonna happen, girl?
Yeah, and then Fred and Daphne actually comes up with an idea where it's kind of like opposite, the opposite energy from these two monsters will destroy each other.
But then also it's like, Fred had this one like, oh, like, I should talk about my feelings. Maybe you should too talk about your feelings, Black Knight. Oh, yeah, it really speaks to my inner child. And the child is enraged. Like, is this a callback to this throwaway line of, this is not a time to talk because talking is for losers, this is time for action?
Yeah, that's definitely what that was.
Is this his arc?
Yeah. That's his arc, Karol. You know, Fred is going to... Fred has some changes where he kind of has to take away his manly side and see that it's okay to talk to others.
But...
Like, it's okay to talk about your feelings, Karol.
But he never did.
No. So it doesn't make any sense.
I just wish they knew how to write Fred
Mm. Well, anyway, they get to this point where Shaggy and Scooby is chased by the minor 49er ghost. For some reason, he can shoot fire, and how Scooby and Shaggy defeats him is with a fart joke. And then they meet a cotton candy ghost which they eat up.
But you know, it's kind of funny because it still follows the story of them becoming heroes. Because first they were afraid, they were petrified, then they actually started taking charge, and then they even destroyed the whole monster by themselves.
Well, let's see. All the gangs later on gets back together, where they are going to each fight one of their monsters, but the evil mask guy comes out and say, it's not them you need to worry about, it's the tar monster you need to worry about. Which the tar monster is, I guess, OP, because he takes out 4 members of the gang.
Can I also mention, because like you just mentioned the tar monster, when they were talking fighting the tar monster, I think it's best if you don't look at him for too long, because then you can see that it's really bad CGI. And then you have close-ups on the characters being engulfed by the tar, and it looks even worse.
One thing about this scene is that it also makes no sense, because at one point Scooby destroys the tar monster and is kind of in this ice blocks, and then 2 scenes later he's back holding Daphne captured, and another scene later where he's in another place, which that scene didn't match up.
Yeah, but then again, Scooby Doo. So we have to, if we wanted to think about it, I know that once he froze the monster and beat him to bits, he immediately starting to melt, so he could regain his form back to what it was. But at the same time, I don't think you using a
fire
extinguisher on concrete is gonna put it to ice.
Yeah, how did that even work? I never can fire extinguisher do that?
I think it's just Scooby logic. It's cold.
Well, anyway, Scooby managed to, with this fire, he managed to melt the tar monster, and he saves the day.
Yeah, and then they have a dance number.
Yeah, then they have a dance number.
So, before we finish the movie...
I guess the main villain too. So in the final scene, it's discovered that the main villain is Alyssa Silverstone's reporting character.
Who is actually Jacob Jacobson, the first...
No, Jonathan Jacabo.
Jonathan Jacabo, JJ here, who was the first pterodactyl who escaped from jail and faked his death.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that to this point, right? Because that was an ongoing thing from the beginning of the film. But we have completely ignored it until now, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it's okay if it was JJ, because there were clues. The movie kind of kept me wondering who could it be.
As I said, this was more of a traditional mystery Scooby-Doo film. And I had really fun with this film. I'm not sure which of the two I like more. Probably this one, to be honest, because I felt like this was more Scooby-Doo, but with a twist of the old villains coming back.
Yeah,
and there being real monsters now too.
It felt very in vain with the whole Scooby vibe.
So this film was fun and nostalgic in some way, but you don't need the nostalgia, I guess, because when I was a kid I didn't know where half of these monsters came from.
And I also wanted to say, almost this movie was exponentially better than the first one.
Okay.
And also, I don't think you're required to see the first movie, because none of the plots carry over to the second one, besides Daphne learning karate. This is like the only thing you need to know from the first one.
Yeah. The adult jokes are also turned down like a lot.
Yeah, which is also fine because they focus on actually fun stuff instead. They're not gross.
Yeah. One thing I like is that in the original Scooby Doo film, like there was this duel scene with Shaggy and Scooby where they have a kind of fort match, and that's also turned down in this film. Well, anyway, I guess we have said all we probably need to say about these two films. We really like them. They're nostalgic, fun, and campy. Exactly what Scooby Doo should be, to be honest. So
really
these are fun movies.
So yeah, I feel like before we end, just like we did with the first movie, any standout bits from the second one?
I don't really have a problem with the second one. I feel like this is really a good Scooby Doo adaptation. Like, it's not a masterpiece of a film, but if you want to make a Scooby Doo film, like, this is pretty good attempt at it. Like, they probably could be a better, like, the mystery wasn't too engaging to solve, to be honest. But to be honest, with the cartoon, it isn't that engaging to solve the mystery there either.
Yeah, you're kind of watching Scooby-Doo because they know they'll solve it, and there's gonna be shenanigans.
So this, I feel like, is a really good Scooby-Doo adaptation. To be honest, like it's fun. Like I said, not a masterpiece of a film, but it is a really good Scooby-Doo film.
Yeah, and I agree. And I feel like if you feel like it, for nostalgia, you can watch this first one. The set is wonderful. The place is beautiful. Jokes are really old.
Yeah, the set design of these two films are really good, to be honest. Like, it really feels that Scooby-Doo vibe, to be honest.
Yeah, it's campy, scary, but not. It's not like horror vibes. It's just like gothic. It's hard to describe, but it fits so well.
Well,
but I feel like
can you do the outro, Karol?
Yeah, I feel like we ramble on for long enough. So
yeah, this episode is getting to become really long.
So, as always, we thank you all for listening, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we have. Don't forget to follow, hit that bell icon, or follow us on socials like Twitter. See you again in the next episode, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.